Welcome to our Middle East briefing program. First up, chaos erupted at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago as pro-Palestine protesters broke through a security fence. Demonstrators chanted slogans against President Joe Biden, accusing him of genocide and calling for an end to the Gaza occupation. The protesters' actions highlight the growing discontent among progressive groups within the Democratic Party. Next, we turn to the troubling story of Manuel Guerrero Aviña, a British-Mexican man who faced a terrifying ordeal in Qatar. Arrested on drug charges, Aviña claims he was targeted due to his sexual orientation. Throughout his imprisonment, he was interrogated about his sexual partners rather than the alleged drug offenses. His experience sheds light on the harsh treatment of LGBT individuals in Qatar and has sparked widespread criticism from human rights organizations. Finally, U.S. intelligence officials have confirmed that Iran was responsible for hacking into the campaigns of both Donald Trump and Joe Biden. The cyberattacks are part of a broader effort by Tehran to undermine U.S. democracy. The revelation underscores the ongoing threat of foreign interference in American elections and raises concerns about the security of the upcoming 2024 election. Please stay tuned for detailed coverage. South China Morning Post. On the opening day of the Democratic National Convention, thousands of protesters took to the streets in Chicago to voice their opposition to the war in Gaza. A group of demonstrators, some dressed in black with their faces covered, broke through a security fence near the convention site, leading to several detentions by the police. Despite the heavy police presence, including officers donning gas masks, the inner security perimeter remained secure. Chants of "End the occupation now" and "The whole world is watching" echoed, reminiscent of the 1968 anti-Vietnam War protests. The marchers, targeting President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, accused them of complicity in what they termed as genocide. Hatem Abudaya, a spokesman for the coalition to march on the DNC, emphasized the need to end U.S. aid to Israel and stand with Palestine. Despite lower-than-expected turnout, organizers expressed pride in the participation, especially given the repression from the city. The rally also saw a small, mostly silent group of pro-Israel supporters, highlighting the tensions but avoiding physical altercations. BBC, Manuel Guerrero Aviña, a British-Mexican man, shared his harrowing experience of being detained in Qatar for 6 months after being targeted for his sexuality. Arrested in February via an undercover sting on the gay dating app Grindr, Manuel was convicted of drug offenses, a charge he vehemently denies, insisting the real reason was his homosexuality. Describing his time in prison, he recounted terrifying moments, including witnessing beatings and enduring cramped conditions. He was forced to thumbprint a confession without a lawyer or translator present. Manuel's family campaigned for his release, and human rights groups condemned his trial as grossly unfair. Despite Qatari officials' claims of his dignified treatment, Manuel's story underscores the perilous situation for LGBT individuals in Qatar. Now back in the UK, he focuses on recovery and cherishes simple freedoms like public affection, which he previously had to hide. His ordeal highlights the broader issue of LGBT rights and justice in Qatar, as echoed by activists and former diplomats. The Independent, at the Progressive Democrats of America's conference ahead of the Democratic National Convention, progressives voiced their frustrations and hopes for Vice President Kamala Harris's actions. Despite setbacks, including primary losses for squad members Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman due to pro-Israel funding, progressives remain determined. Representative Pramila Jayapal emphasized the importance of supporting candidates who can make real progress, even if it means not achieving 100% of their goals. The push for a Gaza ceasefire and an arms embargo on Israel continues to face challenges. Abbas Alawi, a leader of the uncommitted movement, stressed the need for concrete commitments from Harris to garner support from Arab American voters. Immigration policy also remains a contentious issue, with calls for humane treatment and due process for immigrants. Despite these challenges, progressives celebrated the selection of Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as Harris's running mate and the involvement of influential figures like Sean Fain and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez at the convention, signaling a hopeful future for the movement. South China Morning Post. U.S. intelligence officials have confirmed that Iran was responsible for hacking attempts on both Donald Trump's and Kamala Harris's presidential campaigns. This revelation, which aligns with earlier findings by private companies like Microsoft and Google, marks the first time the U.S. government has officially assigned blame to Tehran for these cyber intrusions. The FBI, along with other federal agencies, stated that the goal of these hacks was to sow discord and influence the outcome of the elections, which Iran views as critical to its national security interests. The Trump campaign had previously reported being hacked, attributing the breach to foreign sources and pointing fingers at Iran. This incident echoes the 2016 Democratic National Committee email hack, which was blamed on Russians and had significant political repercussions. The Independent, on the opening day of the Democratic National Convention, DNC, in Chicago, pro-Palestinian protesters broke through a security fence set up by police. The demonstration, which saw thousands taking to the streets, was aimed at voicing opposition to the war in Gaza and U.S. support for Israel. Chants of "Biden, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide," filled the air as activists prepared to make their progressive message heard by top Democratic leaders. The protests, which included a heavy police presence, highlighted the deep-seated frustration among activists who accused the Biden administration of complicity in the conflict. Organizers, including the Coalition to March on the DNC, aimed to pressure Democrats to end aid to Israel, emphasizing that Vice President Kamala Harris is also accountable. The protests are set to continue throughout the convention, with another large rally planned for the day Harris is expected to accept the nomination. New York Times: American intelligence agencies have determined that Iran was behind the hacking of former President Donald J. Trump's campaign as well as attempts to breach the Biden-Harris campaign. This announcement follows the revelation by Trump advisor Roger J. Stone that his email accounts had been compromised, allowing Iranian hackers to impersonate him and access campaign communications. The joint statement from the FBI, the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, and the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency underscores the heightened threat of foreign interference in the 2024 election amid escalating tensions between Tehran and its adversaries, including the U.S. and Israel. The statement emphasized Iran's long-standing interest in exploiting societal tensions to undermine confidence in American democratic institutions. However, it did not provide new details on the attacks or the methods used to attribute the blame to Iran. Associated Press: in Chicago, the Democratic National Convention, DNC, saw Vice President Kamala Harris taking assertive steps to address the tensions within the party caused by the ongoing war in Gaza. Party activists were given a platform to discuss the plight of Gazans under Israeli bombardment since Hamas' attack on October 7. The forum, which was a product of secret negotiations between Harris's campaign and the uncommitted movement, featured heartrending stories of loss and suffering. Dr. Tanya Haj Hassan, who treated patients in Gaza, shared the tragic tale of a young boy who lost his family and no longer wanted to live. Although the activists' core demands for a ceasefire and withholding U.S. support for Israel remain unmet, the forum was seen as a significant step by Harris, offering a glimmer of hope and a small victory for activists like Layla Alaibd, a founder of the uncommitted movement. Al Jazeera: in Chicago, protesters gathered near the Democratic National Convention to demand an end to U.S. support for Israel's war in Gaza. Holding Palestinian and Irish flags, demonstrators like Rich Barnes called for an arms embargo against Israel and an immediate ceasefire. The protest, dubbed the March on the DNC, saw signs linking Harris and President Joe Biden to the atrocities in Gaza, described by protesters as genocide. Despite Harris acknowledging Palestinian suffering, many protesters, including Amal Jaber from Wisconsin, dismissed her empathy as mere lip service without policy changes. The U.S. has provided substantial military support to Israel, and while Harris has been a full partner in overseeing U.S. policy on Gaza, she has not supported an arms embargo, disappointing many anti-war demonstrators. The protests are expected to continue throughout the convention, highlighting the demands for a change in Gaza policy. BBC: U.S. intelligence officials confirmed that Iran was behind the recent hack of Donald Trump's presidential campaign. The FBI and other federal agencies stated that Iran aimed to interfere in the U.S. election to sow discord and undermine confidence in democratic institutions. The Trump campaign had earlier suspected Iran of the hack, which involved a spear phishing email designed to deceive the target into clicking a malicious link. The intelligence community noted that Iran's tactics, including thefts and disclosures, were intended to influence the election process, similar to methods employed by Russia and Iran in past elections. While it remains unclear what information was stolen, Trump claimed that the hackers only accessed publicly available data. The Independent: the 2024 Democratic National Convention has commenced in Chicago, with a live stream capturing the pivotal moments. The event began with a significant address from Joe Biden, who, under immense pressure from top Democrats concerned about his age, has stepped down from his re-election bid. Biden's speech urged the party to rally behind Kamala Harris in the upcoming presidential race against Republican contender Donald Trump. The convention, held at the United Center, saw a mix of political fervor and public dissent, as hundreds of protesters gathered nearby to demand the cessation of military support for Israel's Gaza offensive. Biden's address symbolized a passing of the torch to Harris, emphasizing the achievements of their administration and painting Trump as a danger to American democracy. The highlight of the convention will be on Thursday night when Vice President Harris formally accepts the Democratic nomination, potentially making history as the first female president if elected on November 5. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.
Empty smiles, their words misleading. Power games in darkened rooms. Spin their lies to seal our doom. Oh, oh, oh. Turn on the screen, monster screaming. Empty smiles, their words misleading. Lost in our dark. Leaders laugh while we cry. Change the rules, make us comply. Propaganda noise fills the air. They own the voices unaware. Revolution still in the streets. Claim the